today we're going to be looking at another couple, Isaac and Rebekah. We're going to be looking at it through the lens of marriage. The biggest challenge they had is that they'd not come to a spot of really embracing the oneness that is supposed to be true in marriage. It says the Pharisees came to Jesus and tested him by saying, is it lawful to divorce one's wife for any cause? And then verse 8, Jesus says, because of your hardness of heart, Moses allowed you to divorce your wife. So Jesus says, hey, man, God never commanded divorce. God hates divorce. But because of the hardness of your heart, and then ultimately to protect the vulnerable, that God allows it. But Jesus says, hey, this was never God's plan. He says, I don't want to talk about divorce. I want to talk about marriage and the essence of marriage. So go over to Genesis chapter 2, 24. Therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. It's this, what God is saying is that the marriage relationship becomes the priority relationship. Oneness is not the same thing as being roommates. It is two people giving themselves to one another until their lives are woven into one. Now, oneness is not sameness. It's oneness as we make the differences work for us and not against us. We may have different gifts, we may have different personalities, we may have different perspective, but we have the same goals and the same values. I've invited Claire to join me for the next part of our message. Let's welcome Claire to the stage. So I think there's four things that affect most couples. And one is faith, another is sex, another is kids, and the final one is money. If in my marriage, if the thing that is the most important thing in my life, so as followers of Jesus, the most important thing in our life is loving and following Jesus. So if following Jesus is the most important thing to me, and it's not the most important thing for my spouse, that is going to be a significant barrier to me experiencing the oneness that we're supposed to experience in marriage. But I know you've had a chance to talk to a lot of ladies who love and follow Jesus, but their husband isn't on the same page spiritually. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Certainly, that does cause a certain level of division because of just what Dave was saying about what's important. The most important to you is not the most important thing to that person. However, I will say there are lots of areas you can find unity in. And so don't throw the whole relationship out the window. Find areas where you can have oneness and pursue that in those areas.
So the second one is the sexual relationship is both a picture of the oneness that we experience in marriage, and it also promotes oneness and then is affected by the oneness that we already experience. And so a common stereotype, which I think there's a fair amount of truth in it, is that typically men have sex in order to feel close. Typically women have sex because they already feel close. Then what we see here in this story is the parenting thing. What actually happens when you have kids is it will both reveal the strengths in your marriage and it will reveal the challenges in your marriage, the stuff that's underlying.
Kids can smell division in your relationship as a parent. The first thing it does is it compromises the discipline in the home. It also creates a lot of instability, right? Like things are changing, things are different. There's stress between these two people that are supposed to model oneness for me. It also affects your behavior. It also affects how the children view the spouse, the mom or the dad. So how you're treating your spouse, your children are going to model that. Put your spouse before your kids. This relationship is the most important relationship in our home. Have a united front. If you're going to disagree privately, but have a united front. Honor your spouse publicly and disagree privately.
Good stuff. And then finally, the fourth thing we see with Isaac and Rebekah, there was this faith thing, sex thing, the kids thing, and then this money thing. Kind of coming to a spot that says, hey, these two have become one. So it's not your money, it's not my money, it's our money. And so here's the thing. If you're going to experience the oneness that is, I believe, the heart of God for your marriage, it's going to have to be an ongoing, intentional pursuit. You're going to have to choose to communicate and make it a priority. Here's the next thing. That both dream about the future and celebrate the history.
And look at your relational history. Take stock. Like, what are the triggers that always lead to an argument?
And then finally, allow trials to bind you together. When life gets hard, when maybe finances get tough, or a parent gets sick, or you're having trouble with one of your kids, sometimes our instinct is for these things to cause us to go at each other, but instead allow them to recognize, hey, it's me and you against the world. Therefore, a man shall leave his father and mother and hold fast to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. It's this oneness thing. This mystery, Paul says, it's a mystery. It's a mystery. How can two people become one? How can a man and a woman, both very different, how can they then become one? He says this mystery is profound. He says, and I'm saying that it refers to Christ and the church. He says, but it still applies to marriage, is how he kind of wraps it up. One day we're going to live in his house. Jesus says, behold, I'm going to go and prepare a place for you. And here's my favorite thing. He will never give up on us.